On October the 23rd, 2021, I posted Anachronism 3400. It's called Epigraphs as a Means of Engagement. It starts with an epigraph. Goodness is better than evil because it's nicer. Ansel Berrigan. Hello, community. What do we think of using epigraphs by poets we're currently reading to kickstart poems we write ourselves? I have a hard time comprehending how this might be a problem, but I'm assuming, as with most anything, there are pros and cons. It's like Glenn Ingersoll says in his somewhat similar project to mine, to this one, sometimes devils, I'm paraphrasing, are sexy and sometimes they're repulsive. Now, I myself have been caught by the web of the devil's sexiness before, probably more often than repulsed. This to me is just as fun a topic as using epigraphs from poems I've usually recently read to kickstart one of my own. Sometimes I've already laid the groundwork in my head about what a poem will be about, from how it begins, the trajectory, and occasionally, but rarely, how it will end. As you may or may not be able to tell, that isn't the case here. I've just been reading Anselm's book, Something for Everybody, and came across this quote of his and decided what a great and true quote. Simple, concise, said quirkily. And it's understated to me because it's so truthy, so obvious. Good guys aren't always the winners in the end, and bad guys aren't often quite elevated or sexy to the public eye or ear, but many in real life never get a jot of punishment for their bad behavior. I will say it's important for me to be the best I possibly can, but that's as subjective a quest as can be. But back to my query. Now that I've offered up some evidence of how I utilize the practice of using these quotes by others, I'll throw in another aspect, one I'm sure I can find agreement from at least a few who've experienced with such things. But perhaps there's a small minority who would go this route. Who am I to know? I get to also use these quotes as a way to engage not only with the poet, of whom I could be a fan, or they might be a friend, sometimes I just discovered, quite happy to have done so. Occasionally throwing in a quote is a way for me to have a bit of public rapport with another writer, artist, person, etc. And it ups the ante for the poem because there's a certain amount of risk one takes, particularly if you're starting off with a quote by one of your heroes. But what worthwhile risks those can be. When something resonates, why not put the resonance to a test, publicly meeting it out? It can very much be a means to explore why the words struck such a chord. It is still a vehicle for engagement, which can move well beyond the page. So talk with me. Talk to me. DM me, as they say. Or do they say that anymore? I don't know. I'm here, I'm around. It's easy to find a way to do such a thing. It's just a thought and a hope. And I said it to you.